Can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Novak, O'Rourke, Osnick,
Here.
Palmer, Witt,
Here.
Wolfson,
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Chairman Wolfson, we have a quorum
We
this
have a
evening.
quorum. Thank you. Do we have any requests for any agenda changes? I hear none. Go to approval of the minutes. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes of February 8th, 2022?
Also, I can make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 8th meeting.
Second.
I have a second.
Robertson will second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Open up to audience participation. Do we have anybody logged in or?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Any communications?
No, sir.
No. Okay. We don't need a public hearing, I don't think we have. Unfinished business? None? New business? Hey.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Pleasure being in front of you this evening. I believe the last time we spoke about this development was almost a year ago now when we got site plan approval, so nice being in front of you again. I want to begin by thanking Mr. Ortega and Mrs. Stewart for allowing us to get on the agenda so quickly. There are some matters of haste we'd like to discuss because we're starting to, go vertical on these buildings and ordering exterior materials. We want to make sure we have enough lead time so we can get those materials and make sure we have enough quantities so we can utilize them across all three buildings. I also want to thank Mr. Mackey and Building Official Wright. I know they're not here tonight, but they've been great to work with in so far, and we look forward to continued, good working relationship. So there are some matters of urgency that we would like to discuss as we need to make some final selections on our exterior materials so we can order them as soon as possible. We're making great progress. We're finally in the spring, outside of the winter months. When you have all that frost on the ground, it's sort of hard to, pour the slabs, but, we got the one slab up, first floor is almost completely done, and we look forward to get started on the next couple of buildings over the coming weeks. So before jumping into the modifications that we're looking to propose, I want to talk about some developments since we received final site plan approval from this body last year. We've been working with an energy and sustainability consultant. I'm actually working with this consultant across a number of our projects, Dominion Due Diligence Group, to help us obtain Designed for Energy Star certification and National Green Building Standard certification. This is a fancy way of saying we're using nationally recognized third-party verifications. We're using their certification tools to design and create the most energy-efficient building possible. This was something that was not required by the Planning Commission. This was something that I didn't even know I wanted to do until we started constructing the buildings. But we believe this is going to be a key way to set our development apart from other existing developments. I want to really create a product that one day, my children, God willing, will be proud of. We want to create something that's going to be, long-lasting. It's really important for me to, embrace these energy-efficient buildings because this is the best way that we can create a development that's going to produce a lower carbon footprint, thereby energy emissions, carbon emissions, than similar developments, in the area and the nearby communities. Hannah, are you able to pull up the presentation?
Just one moment.
Yeah, actually, if you want to just go back to, just click this. You just click that. Yep, it's actually, you can see it right now. You're good.
Okay.
Can you zoom in out a little bit if possible? On the third and fourth slides, it may be helpful if you can.
Here, let's go back here.
Okay.
Let's do share screen,
Okay.
and then we'll go here. That way they can see it on Zoom. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, perfect, thanks. So there's 3 changes that we're looking to propose here tonight. The first change, the changes in the exterior vinyl materials, are due to some shortages that we've faced in the marketplace, and the next 2 modifications have been done to try to comply with those green certifications and create a more energy efficient, thermal envelope. I'll get into what that means here in a second. Looking at the second slide, a site aerial. So the back side of these buildings is the portion of the buildings that are facing the Pontiac Trail and Decker right-of-way. The front side of the buildings, or the garage side of the buildings, that's the portion of the building that's facing the interior. So before discussing the vinyl changes, I want to bring up a couple of items that Mr. Ortega brought forth in his review letter. He said that the approved elevations contributed significantly and allowed us to, pursue the modifications that were granted as part of the PUD ordinance. This was building height, separation distances between buildings. This was all done in an effort to consolidate the building footprint and create more open space so we could preserve a lot more of the existing woodlands that are on the site. We agreed with, the statements that, the elevation that we originally proposed maybe wasn't potentially as nice as what we could have. So rather than showing that elevation, I've gone back and forth with a number of vinyl subcontractors, and we've came up here with 2 alternate proposals, alternate 1 and alternate 2. What I really want to do is show you these proposals. They're better than the alternate that we proposed last week, and I'd like to get your opinion, like to get your thoughts, because this is really an item we got to address over the next couple of days so we can order these materials to make sure we, have enough for all 3 buildings. So the original elevation, I actually included the building renderings right here. On the first 2 floors, it had a darker blue board and batten siding. We're using the closest substitute that CertainTeed has. We initially were using Variform for the siding, but the problem with Variform is that they're out of stock on like half of their materials right now. They're not producing as much right now. And if I stuck with that manufacturer, we would have to do wholesale changes to the elevation. So rather do that, I went to their competitor, CertainTeed. I've seen samples. My architect has actually used CertainTeed on a similar building to what we're constructing in Grand Rapids. At the time, it just happened that Variform was more widely available and slightly more affordable. So we are going with a more expensive product, but there's more color selections and there's more material availability. So we're looking to stick with a very similar color on the first 2 floors. The problem with CertainTeed is that they have that upper blue color is called Wedgwood. They have a color, but it's too identical to that Pacific blue that we're proposing. That Pacific blue is slightly lighter, you can see, than what's showed on the rendering. The Wedgwood, it's a very comparable product, and I'm worried if we use both of those products, the color is going to essentially look the same. So rather than using a blue product, we are proposing one of their more premium gray sidings. That's the granite gray. So using that on the 3rd floor, and then on the gables, on the sides of the building, it's only on the sides of the building, we're looking at using a lighter gray. Now, if you go in the middle part of this building, on the front and the back elevation, you can see we have white board and batten. And then on the sides of that, I wanted to, further distinguish that, so we were proposing a gray board and batten. Again, I want to propose colors that work well, work in unison with each other, but, reading Mr. Ortega's review letter, we wanted to try to figure out ways we could get a little bit more creative, do something nice, and do something that still has nice color palette and good variation. So this is option 1. Option 2 is pretty similar with availability. I was able, VS2, VS3, VS2's on the 3rd floor. I have a lighter gray, and then I have a similar gray in board and batten on the gables. Again, it's only on the sides of the building, so whether, on the triangle, whether that's a board and batten or a lap siding, I don't think that really matters. I think Mr. Ortega's comment was, let's get a little bit more variation here. So we felt like we've done that in both of these options. Another change I proposed in alternate 2, if you look at VS5, it's a little difficult being so zoomed out, but you can see in the middle of this building where the middle 4 garages are, it's recessed into the building. We have white on the middle 2, and just adjacent on each sides, we wanted to propose that different blue. Proposing it there, we feel like it's going to create better dichotomy. If we did that same color on a lap siding on the 3rd floor, my worry is that it's going to be too similar. You look at those 2 colors, VS5 and VS1, they look very similar. And I have the samples that prove that. So, you know, at the end of this presentation, like to get your comments, like to get your feedback, and see if maybe, you know, we can make one of these selections so we can move forward with ordering the materials. So with that being over, that was really public enemy number one. The other two, if you could, Jennifer, actually go back up one more slide here real quickly. One of the things that we were looking to do, and this comes exclusively as a recommendation by my energy and sustainability consultant, one of the main reasons we had proposed dormers on the front and back as part of this development was to break up the roof line, to, you know, create even nicer architectural appeal. But as we looked into it further, you know, our dormers, our 4 dormers, those are like the little boxes that are on top of the roof. On the back side of the building, those are going to get a ton of southern exposure. We didn't go into it when this project was approved, but we got our building plan approved. What we're doing is putting studio ceilings on the 3rd floor. The main reason we did that is because we wanted to try to better market those units, and we thought by having, you know, more space above, something that's more of a contemporary look, it would be more desirable for residents. What we didn't realize is how close the back side of our ceiling is to those dormers. And our fear is that during the summertime months, it's going to really bring a lot of heat into that building, and it's going to lead to our tenants having to run the AC a little bit more. I want to keep the dormers on the road side of the building. When people are driving along Pontiac Trail and Decker, that's really, they're further away from the building. They're going to see that roof line. I think that's going to be a great detail. Inside the development, you're standing, you know, right where your garages are in the parking lot. You're not going to see the roof as much. With that being said, I feel like we still have a very, very attractive elevation on the garage-facing side, and getting rid of these dormers isn't going to hinder the architectural appeal. So that was one of the main reasons that we wanted to get rid of those dormers. I want to state that throughout this process, I've instructed my architect to use higher graded insulation. That was something that I believe the building official had put in the review letter. You know, one way you could combat this is by using higher grade insulation. Even with that, my consultant is worried that I could have an issue with that, and, you know, I got to defer to the experts on this. So, you know, this was something that we wanted to ask of. Part of the reason why we're so focused on energy efficiency and creating the best thermal envelope as possible is because it's going to allow our HVAC systems to function more efficiently. The standard run-of-the-mill apartment developer will put gas furnaces in these developments. We're actually looking at doing high-efficiency electric heat pumps. And while that's common in states to the south and it's starting to become more common in the lower Midwest, we've really seen it enter the Michigan market over the past 6 months, the past year. This is really on the cutting edge of energy efficiency. So that's one of the reasons we want to propose these heat pumps, but we want to make sure we have that thermal envelope as tight as possible so those heat pumps can perform to the maximum efficiency. Now, the last item, Jennifer, you can go down 2 slides. If you look at this slide right here, this isn't, I don't know how useful this is, but it shows the dormers on the road-facing side, not on the road-facing side. If you go to the next slide, this showcases the elevations. You know, the last thing I want to talk about is shutters. I'll be the first one to admit that, you know, not everything has been perfect, you know, on the way we initially designed this job. This was the first multifamily project, you know, that I designed with an architect. We thought the shutters would be a great idea, that they would break up the elevation. But the problem is that we're proposing 46 pairs of shutters on each building. You multiply that by 2, that's 92 shutters on each building. Each shutter needs to have between 4 to 6 screws in it. So that means I have between 550 and 830 penetrations that are going through my exterior wall, my Tyvek system, which is the waterproof barrier to prevent leaks, you know, in the building, and through my vinyl siding. As designed, these number of penetrations are going to adversely affect the scoring that we receive on our Energy Star certification. To maintain a high score on these green building certifications, we'd like to see if the commission would be okay with a reduction or a total elimination of these shutters. Building official Wright is correct in stating that shutters are not uncommon, but they're very common in single-family applications, residential applications, not as much in commercial applications. I just told you the sheer amount of shutters that we had, lots of penetrations into the building. You know, I wouldn't care if I was like a typical developer. I built this thing 5 years, I refinance it and sell it. That's not what we want to do. That's not our MO, you know. I want to build these buildings, I want to keep them for 20 years, 30 years. So, you know, now that we've got further along into this process, we're trying to think about some of those issues that could potentially arise down the road. This doesn't come from me. I've talked to our industry professionals, our general contractor, Tower Construction, who's been in business over 15 years, you know, our green consultant, Dominion Due Diligence Group, who's been in business for at least 30 years, as well as our subcontractors who have over 50 plus years of experience, and they told me it's a nightmare down the road. Now, you know, one of the reasons why we had proposed shutters, especially across the back, was because we felt that it would add more architectural appeal. What I'd like to see, rather than eliminating all of them, if we could get a reduction of, say, 50% of them, and where I really want to reduce them is in these middle areas where the balconies are. There's a protrusion there. You know, maybe getting rid of the shutters on those windows because it's not really needed. You know, doing shutters elsewhere along the back of the building. On the sides of the building, I didn't have much shutters to begin with. There was 2 on each side. I don't think that's a big deal. And looking, Jennifer, can you go down to the bottom of the slide that shows the front elevation? You know, it's a very attractive front elevation. There's more brick here. There's garages. There's more balcony space. You know, more color variation on this front facade. I don't feel that those shutters are needed. You know, I think it's just going to produce a more cluttered elevation. So I think that's maybe a middle ground that we could agree with that hopefully alleviates, you know, a lot of those concerns down the road because we're, you know, reducing the amount of penetrations in the building. Now, even with eliminating the shutters, I still believe we're proposing a stunning elevation. Originally, we had 3 different colors, vinyls, you know, and what was our original approved elevation. Now we have 5. So we're really, you know, doing our best to try to meet that middle ground, have nice color palette, nice material breakdown, and, you know, we feel like this is going to be a marquee project. You know, we're in the Gateway Center area, and we feel this is going to be a true gateway development in the city of Walled Lake. Could you scroll down a slide, Jennifer? So, you know, I talked a little bit about the building, but the building's not the only thing, you know, as part of the development. We also have to look at the site development. You know, landscape plan, we followed the landscaping requirements of the ordinance, but we're producing a large variety of landscaping. You know, we want to create a beautiful environment, not only on the interior of the buildings, which I'm just going to preface for a couple of moments, but also on the exterior, you know, creating a bunch of different, you know, tree types and tree heights to really make it, you know, nice appeal as people are driving, you know, along the roadways or, you know, in the development looking outside from their balconies or walking about the premises. Also to landscape plan around the building. You look at a lot of older developments, not much landscaping around the building. We want to propose some nice shrubs, some nice yews, some nice hedges to really help complement the building. So, you know, I know we're requesting some deviations, you know, some variations from what was approved, but I want to let you know we're not chincing out on this development by any means. We still want to do the best that we can to produce just as stunning of an exterior elevation, create a nice outside element. And if you can scroll down one side, I just want to talk about here briefly because there's some upgrades to the finishes that we've made over the past couple months. Can you zoom into the slide by any chance, the select unit finishes? Maybe a little easier to see. Before I get into this, one more thing I forgot to mention is what we're proposing by way of energy efficiency and overall project sustainability is far from what the typical developer does. I want to help change this standard, and granting us these modifications will go a long way to ensuring that we're creating the best energy efficient building possible. So lastly, a couple of interior changes I want to bring to your attention. We're purchasing some very nice, if you look at the top left corner picture and the top middle picture, very nice modern European cabinets from abroad that we believe are going to help create a stunning interior finish that will set us apart from the competition. Looking at that picture on the top right and the one on the bottom left, we've got light up LED mirrors versus a conventional mirror. We believe that this is a cool feature, and we're also doing marble, Mincy Marble is actually the name of the product in all of our showers and our 2-bedroom, 2-bath units. So, you know, we're trying to create a very premium feel, you know, inside and outside on these units. Another thing we're taking a hard look at is smart thermostats. I actually have this thermostat. Consumers gave it to us in our office about a year ago. It's called the Ecobee thermostat. I like it a lot. It helps reduce energy bills. You have a home setting, and you could do a waste setting, vacation setting, so obviously when people are at work or whatnot, they can obviously change those settings. And, you know, this is all to, you know, promote better energy efficiency and, you know, more sustainability, limiting the carbon footprint as part of our development. Actually, our score on our Energy Star certification, the highest score you can get is 90. They make you get over a 75. We're somewhere right now between 83, 85. And I'm trying to think, but I believe our carbon footprint was somewhere between 20 to 25% less than a comparable development. It just follows the regular standards and codes. So, you know, we really do take pride in that. Can we go down one more slide? So I just wanted to discuss this here briefly because there are some minor changes to our site plan. You know, it's a small development, 57 units, 3 buildings. We don't have a clubhouse. One of the things we wanted to make sure we were doing was a state-of-the-art package delivery system, Luxor One. It's a cool system. Any parcel carrier, whether it's Amazon, UPS, DHL, can put a package in here, sends a code to the end user. They go to that interface. There's like a tablet on the system, type in the code that, you know, they get from their phone, and it pops open the locker. So that's something that's really cool. And another development we're looking at, we've got some nice open space just northeast of our Decker Road entrance. Love to do a dog park. You know, the more analysis that I've done, we've seen 50, 60, 70% of people who live in apartments have pets. You know, we want to be a very pet-friendly community, and we feel like this is a cool amenity. So even with the changes we're proposing to the exterior elevation, we still think we're creating a very attractive development. With that, like to open it up to any questions and comments, as well as, you know, talk about that first item on the vinyl, so we can sort of, you know, address this item so we can, you know, place an order on that as soon as possible to ensure, you know, we get availability of those materials.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Otego, do you have some comments on these?
Yes. I'll just be brief. Thank you for the additional information and additional changes. You do have my review letter based on the original proposal. The only thing I'd just like to summarize some of the highlights in there, mainly it being that, you know, a lot of, whenever we have developments in the city, sometimes the developers run into these type of problems, and so we do have a history of working with them. So making these revisions isn't unheard of. However, with the PUD, you just have to keep in mind that the reason that with the PUD, they were granted, they provided a lot of these improvements above and beyond our normal type of development because we granted them project design standards that were higher than others. So, for example, if you were to approve any changes, just keep in mind you want to make sure that the revisions to the approved plans cannot result in a lesser development, in your opinion, that if under consideration now would not meet the eligibility criteria. That eligibility criteria is the recognizable benefit. The development is providing us with preserved open space. However, the architectural features were part of the recognizable benefit that created the eligibility for the whole development. You know, as proposed, the original buildings would have a very attractive, well-designed final appearance, and that's based on the variety of materials. It's based on the architectural roof enhancements and the detail features on the wall. Similarly, the eligibility was based on compatibility with the master plan. This is located in our Gateway Mixed Use District, and so that Gateway District, it's envisioned to utilize higher design standards at the entry into the city, so that reflect the change in character from the adjacent communities coming into the city. So people know they're coming into a city, they're coming into Walled Lake. We're different than our neighbors. And so, as proposed, once again, all the architectural style is very highly detailed and well-designed as originally proposed. So any of the modifications that you would consider tonight to the elevations, you know, we have to be avoiding to make sure we don't result in any type of uniform appearance or you know, a lack of architectural features or material variety. Something that becomes standardized, and that's something that doesn't really contribute to the vision for the Gateway of having a very well-designed building. And some of those revisions, as mentioned, you know,
based on the design, we did provide them above and beyond the PUD standards. Normal PUD allows 10 dwelling units per acre. Granted, it's just a little bit more, but they ended up with a 10.89 dwelling units. And then we did provide revisions to the required front yard setback and the distance between buildings. So all those were factors that were considered and substantiated the changes, and having that additional those additional architectural features substantiated giving those changes to our ordinance. So going over specifically what the applicant is proposing, in terms of variety of materials, in certain elevations, by proposing the certain changes, sometimes it does become more uniform as proposed. I think some of those changes could work, mainly because a lot of the gables were the issue that were going to be resulting in the same material as the floor below. But I believe some of those alternatives do result in like utilizing the board and batten in some of them. And so that would seem to me to be a pretty, still provide that architectural variety, rather than having one wall that's like the majority of it being only one style, horizontal lap siding on the sides. Similarly, in the center of the building, originally at the gable had a proposed for a, what kind was it? It was, yes, shaker style vinyl siding. Now I believe they're proposing another type of board and batten there, a different color. So the different color would provide that detail. And there's other alternatives too. I don't know if there'd be more cost-effective or any issue, but like the use of corbels or gables, or brackets, or vents even in the gable ends. Those small architectural details, maybe those could provide the variety that we're looking for. When it comes to the dormer removal, as mentioned, the applicant is intending to deal with the Energy Star rating. We believe that it's possible to utilize, either utilizing a higher energy efficient insulation, maybe it could be an option, or possibly utilizing additional layers of insulation on the roof floor to get that additional factor to prevent the sunlight from increasing the need for air conditioning in those third floor units. However, in the end, the fact that they're only on the south side being removed, that is beneficial. And keeping them on the north side is important. And they are being proposed to be kept. And then finally, with the window shutter removal, as mentioned, there are a lot of penetrations. The applicant sounds like you'd be willing to look at removing some of them. I would admit, like in the center elevation of the building, where they do have the balcony, sometimes that space between the window and the balcony is really only just enough for the shutter. So maybe removing them in the center does make sense. So that way it's not as crowded in the center center elevation, excuse me. And then, but I would say that the shutters themselves also add for a different color, and they add for a different. They add to the character of the window, because when you take the shutters out, it highlights the lack of the window elements. You see that the sills and the mullions with lintels and the keystones, it doesn't even have keystones, but they're very minimal. So suddenly it's more of a basic window rather than a highlighted window with more architectural features. Like a lot of times windows with wider lintels and sills have that same attractive catch to the eye, and architectural detail that just contributes to the overall character of the building. So in the end, I would just once again emphasize that any proposed revisions that you would consider, make sure that they still result in a high-quality development that meets the eligibility criteria, is compatible with the master plan, and substantiates the changes to the development we proposed. So with that, I'd take any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I've got a couple. The lead time on some of the materials you were talking about, how long a lead time to get some of the materials that you were worried about? Reason for the change?
The Veriform one would be very problematic sticking with that with a certain teed. You know, they do have these specific colors in stock, so on the first building, you know, our windows are coming in, I think in like a week, maybe slightly less than a week, so we're going to need our vinyl to come in soon thereafter. We're probably going to be a week to 10 days behind schedule, but at the end of the day, that's not the end of the world. What I'm more concerned about is making sure that we can order the rest of the materials for the other two buildings that aren't necessarily in stock, and just make sure that, you know, we don't have a problem. We don't have to come back to you and propose different colors on those other buildings. You know, that's the last thing I want to do. I want to make sure that those colors match.
That's what I was getting at is, it's all the materials that you need. So what you're saying that
It's
certain colors
mainly-
you
it's
can get
mainly the
right
board and
now,
bat,
but you don't
yeah.
know what'll, that happens.
Exactly. There's a lot of development
A lot
going
of
on right
change,
now,
right.
so, yeah.
Okay, I can see that. The dormers on the back side, you have it on the front side, the roadside. You're keeping the dormers there. And on the other side, I see that I like you're trying to do it energy efficient. About the shutters is another good question. You're eliminating the shutters on both sides, correct?
That's what we had originally proposed, but, you know, after looking back at it, you don't always have to listen to everything that the consultants say.
Right.
I think there's no need for them on the back side, the garage side, the side within the development, or the sides. And, you know, as Mario was saying, maybe we keep them in the areas where we don't have the, you know, there's 3 protrusions on the back side of that elevation where the balconies come out, so it doesn't create a flat look on the back. I feel like on those areas that are protruding out, I'm going to take a random guess and say that's like 35% of that. We get rid of those shutters, and, you know, we strategically look at placing shutters, you know, more along this interior part of
Right.
the building, rather over in this area where we have, you know, the sliding doors or the patio doors on the first floor and the windows. I think that could potentially be a good compromise. So if I'm looking, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's like 14 windows times 2, that's 28 shutters, versus 57 on each building. We have 28 or something like that. So, you know, a reduction just so we put it on tastefully on that rear elevation, which I think is more the concern. There are some more ins and outs on the front side of the building, and that's just due to the garages. There's not as much on the back side of the building, so I think it would be, you know, tasteful to still have some of those shutters on the back side, but overall it would lead to maybe, I don't know, a 50 or 60% reduction. I'd have to do the exact math.
I'm thinking that we would want to be more specific as far as where he would be keeping the shutters
Right.
than, and where he's planning on removing the shutters. So until I see something more definitive about the exact placement of these shutters, I would have to say we'll hold this off until the next meeting.
Okay,
Until we see more
the
meeting.
shutters is fine, because that's something, you know, that's normally put on more towards the end anyway. The dormers are key because, you know, we just got a ton of lumber delivered on the site, you know, earlier today. The rest of it's going to be delivered, and I got to let them know, you know, if we need those or not. So that's a big issue. And then obviously the vinyl, I don't know if, you know, any of the commissioners have any comments whether alternative 1 or alternative 2's, you know, good, or maybe we do some type of combination of both, and, you know, I can just work offline with, you know, Planner Ortega on that. I'd like to get your thoughts, because this is like an order that we needed to place like yesterday, you know.
I have no issue with you removing the dormers on the rear, on the south-facing.
Gotcha.
I have no problem with you removing those dormers. You will keep the dormers on the roadside, and that would be okay by me.
Perfect, thank you.
But as far as the coloration of the siding, if you can give certainty to give you the quantity that you need, then I have no issue with going with the higher grade of Certainteed. I've used it myself, and it's a doggone good product, so I give my stamp of approval on
Thank
that.
you.
Robert, do you have any?
No,
Tim?
I kind of
Okay,
agree with John. I've used the product too, and it's a good product.
right, yeah, you want a good product, and,
So long as the colors are compatible, and it sounds like they are.
And that's the whole goal. I don't want this thing looking like the rainbow or, you know,
Yeah, no,
a container of Skittles, you know?
so I guess the motion would be to, okay, to do the revisions, removing the dormers on the
South side.
south side. Or the front side, right?
The rear, it's confusing.
Garage
The
side.
interior, the garage side, that's the easiest way to put
That's
it.
a-
You think the front's viewing the road. It's not like a single-family house. It's different,
Is the
so.
garage side.
Yeah. The garage side is the front side, but it's the back.
Yeah, no,
Potato, potato.
I just want to make sure that was
Yeah.
clear.
We're taking each other to school.
Right, right. And the colors, I guess what you feel, since both look pretty good, you want that's better maybe if you know you can get those, that's.
Look, I'm not going to lie, it's
Yeah.
slightly more costly, but at the end of the day, you know, I got to move forward with this and make those
Right.
decisions, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Because you don't know what's going to happen a month or 2 months from now.
COVID sucks, you know, that's all I can say. It
Got to get
still affects
locked
us
in.
day in
I
and day out.
understand Construction. And the issue now, I guess, where shutters. You want shutters partially on the rear elevation, or like you were suggesting maybe, or just,
That's fine. I guess I would like clarification on that shutter issue. You know, it's a minor issue.
Yeah.
What I can agree to is, you know, just on those area where there's the bump out, so those are those 9 windows on the back side. We don't do shutters on those 9 windows. And then the balance, you know, where the dark blue goes up to the 3rd floor where the white is, and it's sort of harder to see it in the distance as you go further back towards where Jennifer and Hannah are sitting. But everywhere else where the elevation is backed recessed towards the building, you know, we'd be looking to put shutters there.
What percentage of shutter reduction were you looking at?
So I'd take it off the sides and the front. It's probably a 50 or 55%. Here, actually, I have it on the numbers on my phone. I took a picture of it earlier today. So we have, it's 27 shutters on the back, 27 pairs of shutters on the back, so I'd like to get rid of it where there's those 9 windows, so we would still have 18 pairs of shutters on the back. We had 5 on the sides. I don't think there's a much need for them on the sides. And then the front side, we talked about that, 14, we'd be looking to eliminate those. So we'd be looking at, if we have 46 shutters per building, we'd be looking to keep 18 shutters per building. So if we did 18 divided by 46,
shutters are 18 pairs.
it's 18 pairs, so it's 36 shutters. Yeah.
yeah,
What we could do is we could defer this to the administration to make sure that they stay in confirmation with those, with that amount of reduction.
That would be
And
appreciated.
have the building official take care, and the inspector take care of that.
Perfect, thank you.
okay.
Commissioner, just for a point of clarification, so we would be removing some off of the back, meaning the garage side, but then the road side?
No, the road side,
Clarify.
Yeah, so we'd be looking to remove all of them on the garage-facing side, all of them on the sides of the building, which are like, most of the shutters were on the back anyway. It was like 65% of the shutters on the back. And we'd be looking to reduce the amount of shutters on the back from 27 to 18, assuming my math was correct, which I believe it was.
But when you say back, you mean the road side, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
that's where the
Taking me to school again. Yeah, the road side, the road side.
6 and 1 half.
Yeah.
side of the parking.
And in that case, then the placement would be up to the building official to make sure that it's correct.
Sure.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, before you call a vote or even define your motion, I heard one member of the board, who's also a council member, saying that something gets referred to administration, which means that we have to make some determinations. I think couple of things I've got in mind to ask the attorney is, what's the vote? If we've got 4 people here, the planning commission, we do not have a full planning commission. You're fixing the possibility of changing a site plan that could have the effect of reducing what we approved as a solid, good-looking facility to something less than what we thought. And if that comes to administration, I'm not good with that. And I'm not sure I'm good with the proposal coming in this quickly and telling me, well, we've got to order this quickly, so you have to vote my way. Well, if I had to vote right this second, I'm going to vote no. If I vote no, that means it fails. So I'm looking to work with them, but I need to know how much this is changing the project. We're not building row houses, and I don't want it to turn into that. So I think we need to draw on the consultant some more tonight. I think he's just getting some of these changes. Is that? And we expect it
just
to
for the
vote on
vinyl
it tonight
color, though.
and then get it sent to administration, which then falls in my area. And we end up building something that doesn't look at all like what we approved. And I'm not good with that at all. I can sympathize. I can sit here and rationalize why it's a good idea for him to get what he wants and his company, but they're the builders, and they agreed to build it a certain way. Secondly, the lawyer, if he's on the line, I'd like him to give us an opinion about, so that it's in the record, what changing the site plan does. In other words, I think the consultant said, we have some changes here, and we gave a little and took a little. Well, what are we giving away here tonight? Do we now have row houses? Now, that's obviously not going to do that, but my point is, we're getting something less than what we thought. Are we getting something less than what we thought? And I'm not sure that our consultant has had enough time to really analyze this. I'm not under the impression that this is a good idea, and I'm not convinced. He does a great presentation. He's a very good speaker, but I'm concerned about what it looks like after it's built. And I'm also concerned that if I vote no, which I would right now, that it fails. So what we want to do is find a way to have the time to get fixed what needs to be fixed with my concerns, administration's concerns, and any concerns that this board could still have. And so I believe that we need to hear from the attorney on what's required to, I think I know, but I want to hear it from the lawyer, what's required to modify a site plan. And I don't want to be held responsible for not knowing all the facts and all the law. So if the chair would call the lawyer into question here and ask him if he can give us an opinion on, a quick opinion on not only the votes and what it takes to change the site plan.
A good idea. I was thinking of that. Does it go along with the ordinances that we have, and to saying about that? Mr. Venerian, could you give us an opinion on that?
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I coming through? Okay. Yeah, this was approved as a PUD, a planned unit development. And whenever there are proposed changes or modifications to a PUD, if the proposed modifications are minor in nature, then it comes before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission decides whether or not to approve or deny some, all, or none of the proposed revisions. So these are revisions that are primarily of a aesthetic nature. They're architectural features. They're not they're not going from 3 buildings down to 2 or anything like that. It's nothing that would be considered a major revision. So I think it is properly before the Planning Commission as for consideration as a minor revision. The Planning Commission does have broad discretion in this case to approve or deny some, none, or all of the revisions that are being requested by the developer in this case. So it's really it's really up to the planning commission whether or not to go along with what's being proposed by the developer here.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
he raises the question, which I think ought to be answered by our consultant. Are these, whether we like them or not, from a consultant's point of view, an expert, that's why you're a consultant, are these considered minor or major changes?
Actually, they would be considered minor because the ordinance actually does specifically outline criteria that is identified as minor versus major. And if it was a major revision, it would require a different review process. But in this particular case, because their building footprint isn't being changed, a number of units isn't being changed, those are some of the major revisions. Where this might seem a little bit of a gray area between the minor and the major is the fact that if these architectural changes were substantial, then they could affect, the eligibility and could affect the recognizable benefits that the PUD is supposed to provide to the city. So that's why in this particular case, while the revisions themselves, while elevation revisions are minor, because it doesn't alter the density, they are substantial because that slight detail, that slight tweak that goes one step too far could result in some of the type of development I think you're trying to, that you're referencing, in terms of, just more uniform style. It's not really a substantial benefit, and is not architecturally well-designed or having high-quality architectural features. So that's why I would think that any changes to these elevations should, your choices should be very specific. Because, for example, when it comes to the variety of the materials, I do believe that having a different material on each of the gable ends is important because it adds for that extra variety. Without that gable end being changed, then it's suddenly very uniform on the side. It's just 50% of two materials on one side instead of three, for example. Now, that might not seem that substantial, but that subtle tweak can be important. I believe the applicant has proposed something in which utilizing a board and batten above the vinyl side, the lap siding, I think that's something that's substantial enough because it changes both the color and the material in the gables. So I think that kind of detail is very important. When it comes to the shutters themselves, I guess I'd go back to the shutters. Having them on just one side, being the door, the road side, that's the most important because because that's going to be the most visible. Not only the residents will be seeing the front of their building, but the entire city will be seeing the front of the buildings. So any building that has a public-facing elevation, I think it's important to keep that as original as possible. So one compromise could be, he was mentioning keeping the shutters off of the ends of the building. Well, possibly, I could see keeping them off the ends that are facing each other, but maybe just the one end that's on the south side of Decker that is going to be visible from the street, and the one end that's on the east side.
Where our
on the Pontiac
entrances
Trail,
are.
Where the entrances are, keeping the shutters there, keeping that architectural detail that's public-facing, I think is important.
Hey, Jennifer, could you pull up the elevation sheet? I just want to point that out really quickly.
So those kind of specific details, I think, could tip this one way or the other in terms of whether it
I
becomes...
think your explanation is very useful to me. I want to ask you to keep it simple one more time. Are these minor?
They are minor because
Changes.
they don't affect the
That
density.
means as a body, we can vote yes without making any major changes. And we
Correct.
can expect that there will be minor changes over there. So what I'm trying to do is get to a point where I can vote in favor of this without sacrificing what we voted for to begin with. We sat here and we expected a really nice development, and I don't want it to turn into something less than what we get. I understand that they have some issues that they have to deal with. We all do that. So I think having said that and heard from the attorney that we have the authority to do that, either one of us sitting on the board can actually stop this change. One vote is no. So we need to talk just a little bit more about what we got, considering the most recent remarks. Do you need more time, or would that be useful, or to do any more review, or you still stick with it? If it's minor, we can do it in these discussions and maybe come up with a yes vote.
Yes, I do believe it's minor, and that you could go through if you were to methodically indicate the changes that are acceptable to the commission, then provided you're all of the same opinion that those are minor enough, then it could be approved.
Mr. Ortega, may I interject for a second? It may help if I provide some clarity here, understanding what...
But can you wait? We need to talk here. I don't believe you need to do a sales pitch right now.
No, I was going to say the shutters on, if you guys want the shutters on the side, I'm...
We don't know
Oh,
what we
okay,
want.
okay.
Why don't you wait?
Okay. Couple concerns I have. Number one, making sure he can get the material he needs. I know lead time is important.
We should have those concerns. Yes, we
Okay.
want him to get that.
I think we're in agreement about the dormers, right?
I don't have any problem with that.
No problem.
What I heard that possibly would happen is that you might vote to do some of this and then tell administration to work with him, and I got no problem with that, as long as
Yeah.
we globally understand that we're not changing, we're only doing minor changes. I do not want this to look different than what people say. I
Right.
understand, and if they want my vote, they're going to listen, they're not going to talk.
Right.
All right, I appreciate that, but I know what the issue is. The issue is, we approved it one way, and if it comes out looking ridiculous or absurd or cheap, then not only is this board going to get it, city council's going to get it, and administration's going to get it. So if we can come up with something tonight that makes those changes, and if you ended up sending it to administration, which means that I work with the consultant and the lawyer one more time, and we can get it done for them. But I'm not willing to vote yes, not knowing what it's going to look like. And I think that's a legitimate
Yeah.
concern for administration, because administration, we always get blamed. That's why we all get the big bucks. They make all that money over there, to get blamed for something. But I'm not happy with some of the stuff that's been done here in the past, not only here, but other communities I've worked with.
Yeah.
Schaefer, the development has always done a good job. That's not the issue. The issue is, are we going to lower our standards so far that we take a hit and we do a disservice to our voters and our residents?
Does changing the color that we were thinking of or whatnot, that colors you wanted to do, is that,
I don't care what color it is. If you want my vote, we got to
That's
come up with a way
right?
that this gets fixed, and we're not diminishing the development. If you can do that, and 3 other people here besides me think that that's what we've done, then they've got the 4th vote for me. And I think any of you can kill this project right now.
make sure I understand. Now, the 2 outer and the 2 outer units, buildings. With the
How
shutters
about
there?
this? I will keep the shutters on the side, so there's 2 on one side, there's 3 on the other. I can't remember which side's which. There's 5 in total on the sides.
On the end.
I will keep all of the shutters on the sides of the building.
Oh, okay.
As we talked about on the back side of the building, I'd like to eliminate the 9 where they're the balconies. We'll do the rest of the shutters on the back, and we'll eliminate it on the front. It's a compromise. That's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. We want to propose a high-quality product. Mr. Witt knows us. We've done, a project here in the past that I think has worked out fairly well. I can assure you that our exterior facade is going to look nicer than those Pulte homes. Because you look at the sides of those from top down, it's one single variation of siding, whereas we'll have 2 or 3. So I think it is going to be, extraordinarily attractive. And like I said, the biggest issue is, number one, if you guys are okay with vinyl colors, I can submit a revised one based on the 2 that we showed, get planning support. It sounds like there's a general consensus on the shutters on the south-facing side, and I'm more than okay, because I've got to submit a revised exterior elevation anyway to planning. They will see what, the changes are, and it'll be of the character, the shutters as we discussed tonight.
You brought up one point that was good. I see some of the shutters on the new rear elevation but not, like you said, not so much not by the balconies.
We'd be getting rid of.
Right. Right, because to me, that garbles it up a little bit.
And one of those is
Makes
white,
it-
putting white shutters on a white elevation, you're not going to see it anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, could we go back, because you had the option 1 and the option 2,
These were on the vinyl colors.
okay? The alternate 1 and alternate 2, those were not in our packet. With those new color schemes,
Right.
they were not in our packet.
Right,
These are actually more
I would-
diverse
I
color
would
schemes
like
than
to-
what was in the packet.
I would like to see exactly what you're talking about with those, from this distance,
Yeah, I can't tell.
it's not all that clear.
Yeah, I will agree.
What you're
They
talking
look
about
very
is
similar.
alternate 1 and alternate 2. It's not all that clear.
If you don't mind, could I explain it
If I
for
had-
30
if I had a
seconds
printout-
again?
If I had a printout right in front of me, it would be,
Okay. So in the revised proposal, Mr. Ortega was white.
Okay,
There were
all right.
3 colors. There was blue, there was gray, there was white. Now I'm proposing 5 colors. So this is going to stay consistent as that darker color, and that wraps up all along the back of the building. That darker blue is going to be fairly consistent. That color-wise, it's slightly lighter than what was approved. I can't control that. That's the siding that Certainteed has. The problem is that Certainteed has a blue, but it's, Jennifer, could you scroll down to the next slide real quick? These are the 2 colors. From where you're sitting, I'm sure you can't tell a difference. I'm looking
Right.
right at this, and I can barely tell a difference. I don't want to propose this in board and batten, and this is another color in lap, because you're going to look at it from Pontiac Trail and Decker, and it's all going to look like the same color. It's going to look like the Blue Monster.
right.
That's not what I want to do. So if you, the real difference between these 2 elevations is in VS5. VS5, so there's the white thing here, the board and batten, where there's the balconies and the windows. On the kitty corner sides, we'd be looking at doing a blue. On the prior one, I show a gray. So it would be white and gray, or it can be white and blue, like you see here. On these sides, I proposed something that was a darker gray and then a lighter gray. And it was a darker gray lap siding and then a lighter gray lap siding. Here, I have a lighter gray lap siding, and then I have a lighter gray board and batten. So it's really, the only changes in VS5 and then VS3, and then VS2, I said, if you want to go to the next one, was a slightly darker gray. Instead of a sterling gray, could you scroll down to the next slide?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the one above it. You know, I was proposing either this lighter gray or this darker gray. So it's just, it all comes down to personal preference. I think both of them look nice. It's about creating either variation in the color or variation in the material. If you're more concerned about variation in the color, I think this alternative, Jennifer, I believe this is alternative 1.
Yes.
Alternative 1 has more colors. If you're more concerned about the material, again, the only material difference is on this gable, which is again on the sides, not as pronounced of a feature. I would go with option 2. But me personally, I like option 1 more because it's got more colored variation.
So if we're going to if we're going to approve anything, I think we need to talk about either version 1, alternate 1, or alternate 2, and specify it in our motion.
Do we need to see the exact color, or just say 1 or 2? I like the idea of a little more color in the number 1.
Yeah, and actually what I'll do is I'll propose that VS5 siding in number 1. So here,
That's when
it'll be blue instead of gray. So that way,
I don't care about the color.
we get the maximum color on here that's complementary.
Right. Uh-huh. Okay, so we're keeping the, let me make sure I got it,
We're keeping the shutters on
the outer
on
side.
the road side and on the 2 outer buildings.
We're
The
keeping,
the 2 end buildings.
I will propose shutters on the sides of every building. I will
Okay.
keep the
Yeah, all right.
shutters on the sides of every building, and what I'm looking to do on the
He says
back,
on all buildings, the sides of all buildings.
because 3 of those sides can be
On the
viewed from the road.
side and on all sides of the buildings.
Yes, there's
On all
the 2
buildings.
small, so
Okay,
That works.
you, shutter. I'll keep those on the
Correct.
side.
2 ends, the ends the inside, the ends, right?
The ends of the building, the
All
sides of the
ends
building.
All buildings.
Correct.
That's ends of all
Correct.
buildings.
Yeah, that's what I want to make
Yes,
sure.
right.
But not side, the front side and the back side, but not an end side.
From the road, is that correct?
The end.
I'm sorry?
The end
All
side.
shutters that can
Right,
be seen
I
from
want to
the
be
road.
clear.
And the 6 ends.
Yep.
Correct, except for on the portions facing the road, we said where we do have the balconies that will
Right.
eliminate those 9 shutters.
Right.
So the balance, I believe, there were 27 minus 9 is 18. We'll have 18 pairs of shutters on the back, and we'll have 5 pairs of shutters on the sides of the building. One of the sides, or the ends, whatever you want to call it, the smaller portion, has 2 pairs of shutters. The other one has 3 pairs of shutters. So if we add that together, we're keeping 23 shutters out of a total of what was proposed as 46 or 47 shutters. So it's a plus or minus 50% reduction in the shutters. Again, the dormers, I need to know that sooner rather than later, because I got to let my lumber company know whether those need to be fabricated or not. And then it sounds like there's a general consensus, we'll do VS1, and then we talked about it, the one more color, so we get some more color on it.
As far as I'm concerned, removing the shutters on the garage side is a minor.
I think you're removing,
The dormers on the garage side, which would be the interior.
yes, yeah, I got that. The new rear elevate, the side where the parking is, not the road side, okay? We're going to put shutters there, but not by the porch,
That's on the
balconies.
road-facing side, correct?
road facing side,
On the interior side of the building where the garages are, we're eliminating those shutters.
all shutters.
Correct. And there's like
Okay.
9 pair, you know, most of the shutters are on the sides of the building and the back of the building.
Yeah.
9, where do you get 9 on the
Jennifer,
On
could
the
you
rear,
pull up
the
that
rear
drawing?
elevation you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so
Oh, the
keep the
garage.
colored one, it's a little
Huh?
easier to see on the colored one, Jennifer.
Garage side is where he's eliminating,
To the top,
Up to,
where the garage door,
Garage, okay.
that one.
which is called the front end, that's where we're
Go
going
to-
just go ahead.
Actually, right.
Yeah, that's good.
So, well, let me make sure, you're eliminating
The front is the garage.
the shutters on the garage side,
Okay.
correct?
I'm
Did I
going to
get-
try to state this as simple as possible. The elevation on the top left, the garage side of the building, we're eliminating those shutters. This is the side that's interior on the development,
Right.
quote-unquote front of the development.
Okay.
The rear of the development, the portion that's facing Pontiac Trail, we are just eliminating the 9 where the columns stick out, where you see those gables next to our sliding doors or our patio doors outside. So we're keeping 18 pairs on the back, we're getting rid of 9 on the back. And then we're keeping them on all of the sides.
Okay, I think I got it now.
It's a lot, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Good luck getting this motion going. Oh. This is where the
I think it's gonna-
consultant earns his money.
Or I can state the motion.
You want to take a shot at helping out with a motion to get this done? That gets everybody's vote?
So the planning commission would allow for minor revisions to the approved site plan that include the removal of the dormers on the garage side of all buildings, the removal of 9 pairs of shutters on each building on the road side, the removal of shutters of all shutters on the garage side, and the shutters on the sides of the buildings will remain, and allowing for a change in the variety of the materials, with alternative 1 being the approved color and material selection.
That it?
That'll be my motion.
Ms. Jakeway, do you have that?
Did you get that? Okay.
Hey, we earned our money tonight.
Do you want somebody to support that? I will support that.
You support that, okay.
Would you mind repeating that? Can you run that back by us?
I'll repeat, it won't be the same.
It's fine if we leave the front and the back out.
You have the benefit of listening to it,
I
Ms.
know you believe you understand what you think you heard me say, but I'm not sure you realize what I said is not what I really meant.
Start taking it
I think
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please? To that motion.
Novak, O'Rourke, Osnick,
Yes.
Palmer, Witt.
You still thinking?
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes?
Robertson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion
You
passes.
can take a breath now.
Thank you.
Okay. Any commissioner comments?
Okay, thanks. I just did my.
You guys earned your money tonight. I know
Yeah, we
that.
sure did. Okay. How about a motion to adjourn?
I could do that, make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
Second?
Yep.
Second, all approved? Say aye. Yay.
Aye.